بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد to موقف or not to موقف, that is the question. We are still in the discourse about al-jarh wa ta'dil, and we have seen previously that jarh and ta'dil, it's about finding out whether a person is reliable in its conveying of knowledge and information, and it's based upon integrity and accuracy. As far as the jarh is concerned, we have said that there are two types of jarh, the vague one and the detailed one. And today we shall be looking at the biggest buzz topic in this matter, which is the rule al-jarh al-mufassar muqaddamun ala al-ta'dil. So the detailed jarh takes precedence over any ta'dil. طيب. So before we dive into this, there are two very important points that I'd like to mention. First of all, we have seen already from the two lessons that have preceded that jarh and ta'dil are matters of ijtihad, and it is a problematic matter where human subjectivity and human flaw kicks in full power. Unlike the Book of Allah and the Sunnah of the Messenger, as soon as we have an ayah or an authentic hadith, there is no more room for anybody to discuss and argue. And people have made us to believe that al-jarh al-mufassar, due to this qa'ida right here, that the jarh mufassar takes precedence over the ta'dil, people have made their subjects and the Muslims to believe that this actually has the same status as the ayah of the Quran and the Sunnah of the Messenger, in so far as soon as it comes, khalas, there is no more room for any discussion. It has to be accepted, it has to be abided by, and anybody who refuses to do so is not only sinful but is outright deviant. So we shall see what it's really about. The second point that is very important to mention is that what we have mentioned so far in the two first lessons, the fact that for a person to be reliable, it needs to be a person of integrity and be accurate about what he's talking about. That is something that has application in modern day issues, whether it be matters of qada, rulings and judgment in courthouse. Well, if you bring in a witness, that witness has to be somebody of integrity, he can't be a liar, and he must know what he's talking about. If you bring somebody who isn't a liar to speak about something that he hasn't really witnessed, that he hasn't really read, he hasn't really heard, then he can't be accurate about what he's talking about. However, this rule right here, the detailed jarh takes precedence over the ta'dil, has no application in present day context. And it's not me inventing this, ulama have said that. And scholars have pointed out that people who are trying to use this nowadays, they have called this abathun bil mustalahat, right? It's messing about with the terminology of the Sharia. And the only purpose of doing so is manipulating their subjects. So, let's go into the topic. So this is on page 55 of the book, which is still the book by Sheikh Abdul Aziz Al Abdul Latif, rahimahullah ta'ala. And on page 55 he says, Al-Faslu Thani, the second part of the book, Ta'arudul Jarh wa Ta'dil, when jarh and ta'dil are conflicting. One scholar says this guy is thiqah, and another one says bal majruh, for whatever reason. How do we deal with that? So the author starts saying that there are two situations or two forms that this can take. Number one is أن يكون تعارضهما بصدورهما من إمامين فأكثر. When you have two scholars saying conflicting statements about one individual, or a second case is أن يتعارض وقد صدر من إمام واحد. When you have one scholar who has said conflicting statements about one individual. Now we shall not deal with this second case in this particular video. However, please keep this in mind, because we shall look at some modern day case study on this inshallah ta'ala in the future. So then the author mentions in thick print, فإذا تعارض الجرح المفسر مع التعديل بصدورهما من إمامين فأكثر فمذهب الجمهور تقديم الجرح على التعديل مطلقا. سواء زاد عدد المعدلين على عدد المجرحين أو نقص عنه أو استويا. So whenever we have a jarh mufassar, a detailed jarh that is conflicting with a ta'dil, be it detailed, vague, whatever, a jarh mufassar conflicting with any type of ta'dil, if we are in a situation of the first category, meaning that it's one scholar said jarh, another one said ta'dil, in that case the madhab of the jumhur, the majority of the scholars, say that the jarh takes precedence over the ta'dil, whether the number of people who are doing ta'dil are more than the number of doing jarh, less or equal. All right, so as you can see in the book, this particular sentence is that much, 2.5 lines. 2.5 lines, all right. Now, just to point out, these 2.5 lines, when it comes down to jarh wa ta'dil, when you listen to this particular jama'ah, it's like the only matter in jarh wa ta'dil that exists are these 2.5 lines. This being a summarized book, which has, a few hundred pages, all right, 320 pages, the only thing they're interested is these 2.5 lines. And just to prove my point, everything that I have explained to you in previous videos, most of you will never have heard anything even alluding to anything of that. Right? So now, as I said, this qa'idah, it has no application in modern day issues. However, for the sake of argument, let's say we are going to apply the rules of jarh wa ta'dil within this chapter that is dealing with this qa'idah, and I shall prove you that this particular jama'ah are even misusing this qa'idah and they have no grounds whatsoever to do what they're doing with this qa'idah. So, as you have seen, those are just 2 lines. Let's now see if there is anything more to it. Well, after these 2 lines, the author gets, into the khilaf. That's a page, and then he makes the tarjih, yani he claims that the best opinion, the most likely opinion is, as a matter of fact, this thing here, that the jarh mufassar takes precedence. Then he's talking some more about the second matter, which I have mentioned to you, which is that when you have a conflicting statement coming from a same imam, and then he goes into explaining 20 points that show you that in practicality there is far more to it than just this simplified rule right here. So he goes into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28 pages. 28 pages in which he explains 20 different scenarios that show you that this particular rule right here cannot be used as an absolute rule when it comes down to matters of jarh wa ta'dil. And we're going to look at the first and possibly second case in this video right here, or the first or second element that needs to be taken into consideration in order to explain why that is. I'm not going to explain all of them, I've just selected a few of them. So he says, من ضوابط تعارض الجرح والتعديل, from the rulings linked to جرح تعديل conflicting. الأصل المعتبر عند تعارض الجرح والتعديل تقديم الجرح المفسر على التعديل وتقديم التعديل على الجرح المبهم، ولكن هذا الأصل تقيده ضوابط متعددة توجد في ثنايا كلام الأئمة عند الموازنة بين الآراء المختلفة في توثيق الراوي وتضعيفه. So he says that the basic rule is this one, and in case the jarh is not detailed but vague, then the jarh is rejected against a ta'dil. However, this basic ruling has to be understood in light of many other rulings that you will understand from the folds of the comments that the ai of this science have made while analyzing the conflicting statements and comparing the different opinions from the A'imma when it comes down to judging the reliability of a narrator. So the first one of these matters is, so he says, min ahammi tilka dawabit, from the most important ones. So not even all of them. These 20 he mentioned here, they're not all of them, but they're the most important ones. As I said, this is a summarized book. اعتبار مناهج الأئمة في جرحهم وتعديلهم. Considering the manhaj of the Imam when it comes to jarh and ta'dil. So what does he mean? فَإِنَّهُمْ عَلَى ثَلَاثَةِ أَقْسَامٍ. Verily, they are upon three categories, the A'imma, when it comes to their manhaj in jarh wa ta'dil. First category, مَنْ هُوَ مُتَعَنِّتٌ فِي الْجَرْحِ مُتَثَبِّتٌ فِي التَّعْدِيلِ يَغْمِزُ الرَّاوِي بِالْغَلْطَتَيْنِ وَالثَّلَاثِ وَيُلَيِّنُ حَدِيثَهُ بِذَلِكَ. So number one are the people that are harsh, obstinate in jarh, but cautious in ta'dil. How does that function? يَغْمِزُ الرَّاوِي بِالْغَلْطَتَيْنِ وَالثَّلَاثِ. He will write off a narrator for 2 or 3 mistakes. That's it, 2, 3 mistakes, yalla, fulan, gone. Right? His narration is rejected, weak. Right? So who are these A'imma that the A'imma of Jarh wa Ta'dil have deemed to be harsh? Right? Are there some obscure A'imma you never heard of? Hasha wa kalla. They are شعبة بن الحجاج, يحيى بن سعيد القطان, يحيى بن معين, Abu Hatim al-Razi, والنسائي. So these individuals are from the superstars of our ummah, if I may express myself this way. They are from the biggest A'imma of the science of ahadith. However, when it comes down to jarh wa ta'dil, when it comes down to matters that are subjective, their jarh mufassar is not treated like an ayah coming down from the sky. Rather, it is looked at in light of what other people have said, and A'imma are striving to find out what is correct, what is fair from what is not fair. So, moving forward, the second category, من هو معتدل في التوثيق منصف في الجرح. Whoever is moderate in tawthiq, judging somebody to be reliable, fair in jarh. So that's obviously the golden category. Who are these people? Sufyan al-Thawri, Abdurrahman ibn Mahdi, Ibn Sa'id, I believe he's Ibn Sa'd, sorry, I believe he's Al-Layth ibn Sa'd, Ibn al-Madini, Al-Imam Ahmad, Al-Imam al-Bukhari, Abu Zur'a al-Razi, Abu Dawood, Ibn Adi, and Ad-Daraqutni. Right, so they're in this golden category right here. Then third category, man huwa mutasahilun, people that are lenient, easygoing, somewhat lax. So who are they? Abi al-Hasan Ahmad ibn Abdullah al-Ajli, Abi Isa al-Tirmidhi, Ibn Hibban, الدارقطني في بعض الأوقات, وأبو الحاكم وأبو عبد الله الحاكم وأبو بكر البيهقي. So this في بعض الأوقات, we'll look at this in a minute. So then the author asks, or he explains, why do we make this categorization? What's the benefit of this? So he says, فائدة هذا التقسيم النظر في أقوال الأئمة عند إرادة الحكم على الراوي. We have to consider this matter when we analyze the words of the A'imma in Jarh wa Ta'dil in order to judge a rawi in a correct matter. So I'm going to give you a summarized version of what the author have said, and I'll put a translation on screen that you can pause and read if you wish to go into the details on this matter. So the first category, obstinate in jarh, cautious in ta'dil. Whenever we got a jarh from these people, it is not just accepted without any condition. Rather, it remains pending until we see that, first of all, nobody has opposed this jarh, and that, you know, the jarh is mufassar. We are able to look into it to see if it's legitimate. However, when we get a tawthiq from this first category who's so harsh, well, if this rawi, he managed to be not written off by these a'imma, that means that he is really strong. So when we get a tawthiq from them, that is a tawthiq that is highly valuable. However, when we do have a jarh mufassar that goes against it, we have to look into it further. On the opposite side of the spectrum, we have the lenient people. So whenever the lenient people make a jarh, meaning like these people with all the, the gentleness and the leniency that they have concerning these matters, this guy still didn't make it, that means that he is really weak, all right? However, when they make a tawthiq, because they are so lax, this tawthiq is not accepted. First of all, if there is anybody opposing it, then it's definitely not accepted. Or even when we don't have anybody else backing them up, that guy also still remains pending. However, as the author has mentioned, some people who are lenient on the whole are very harsh concerning a specific category of people. And in the next lesson, we look more into that. But once again, what does this come down to? Human subjectivity, human bias, and human flaw. Then we have the middle category. Anything coming from the middle category, because they are so moderate, they are so balanced, they are so accurate, anything coming from them is of high value, highly accepted, unless other people are contradicting them, it is looked into further. And this leads the author to talk about the second point, which is كل طبقات من طبقات نقاد الرجال لا تخلو من متشدد ومتوسط. It says in every generation of people who were who were talking about matters of jarh wa ta'dil, in every tabaqa, means like in every layer, meaning basically a generation, people who were living at the same time. In every layer, we have at least one people from each one of the obstinate and moderate category. So he says that this enables us to look at what both these categories had to say in order to come out with a correct understanding of how we should treat the narration of this particular individual. So, I wish that you understand that this particular qaida applies strictly to narration of hadith. It applies to people who have died 1,100 to 1,400 years ago, or 1,300 years ago. There is no way that we can verify ourselves what these people are upon. We can't, unlike nowadays, turn on their YouTube channel and watch what they're talking about. We can't look at their Twitter accounts and see what kinds of stuff they're tweeting in order to see, is this guy spreading correct sunnah or bid'ah? These are completely different things. Nowadays, it's like information is right here. You can just turn your head and look at it. But you are being told, no. I have a khabar thiqa, a reliable information, 21st century khabar thiqa, which goes hand in hand with the jarh mufassar in the manipulative strategies that are used nowadays. I have a khabar thiqa who claimed that this individual claims such and such, and based on that there is a jarh mufassar. So khalas, you have to accept it. You're not allowed to turn your head and verify that information. Or you might have actually listened to this person for months, years, maybe decades, and know what he's upon, and now you have a khabar thiqa that was followed by a jarh mufassar. So everything you have to delete from your memory and just stick to this thing. And if ever your eyes were to mistakenly look back at this thing and say, no, my eyes are lying to me, it can't be true, because there is a jarh mufassar that says that he's not like that, he's not upon the sunnah, right? In this matter, he has taken the qawl of the Asha'ira, although I see that he's actually refuting the Asha'ira, but no, my eyes and my ears must be lying to me. This is how they want you to understand this qaida of al-jarh al-mufassar muqaddamun ala al-ta'dil. So, in the next episode, inshallah ta'ala, we'll look at another very important aspect of jarh and ta'dil conflicting. Subhanakallahumma bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.